start my speech in 3, 2, 1. The ideal world that we want to build under proposition in this motion is the world where women are no longer expected to constantly sacrifice their own needs or even happiness, dreams, and etc. for the sake of others. We want to create a world where women have their freedom to prioritize themselves, whether it's for their career, education, relationship, and many more, without guilt or shame, or labeled as irresponsible, unfeminine, and etc. That's exactly why we stand for proposition itself today. In order to oppose the status quo, where most of women nowadays have to fulfill the expectations from the environment and society based off the narration of how women should ideally have to be, and others labeling or stereotype like they must give or sacrifice their dream, time, energy, or even emotion for their family, their partners, or even in society, and their sacrifice even celebrated. That looks morally and ideally right. Like, oh, what a woman you are. You're such a good woman for always giving in. You are such a great woman for always sacrifice yourself for your parents or your family, and etc., which is so problematic and toxic under the side of opposition. And this creates a structural problems and false narrative where women are discouraged for prioritizing themselves instead of others, their education, careers, or even saying no to harmful relationships. And as a feminist, our stance is clear in this debate. We have to do action to encourage women to be selfish. We oppose the oppression of traditional movement that a woman should always sacrifice themselves in order to look up how women ideally should behave or treated in the society. This doesn't mean that there are no such of things that already been made up on to oppose these things, but here we want to have something bigger and a hard action to encourage women to be selfish. And before I describing more about this and why it is important, first let's define some key terms. The first one is encourage women. What I mean by encourage women in this case is flip the narrative of the status quo that women and help them to try out of this toxic environment. We want to encourage women that selfishness in this case is something right to do, and they don't have to be worried of being criticized or by society. And the second one, the selfish here, let's make it clear that the selfish in this case is not something that are like greedy or even like cruelty, not at all. The selfish we want is that women to be here is the prioritizing themselves, their dreams, and their future, even when the society pushes women to give those up for others. And under the framing, I will talk about two things here. The first one is why the status quo is toxic and problematic for women and their liberation or freedom. And the second one is why encouraging women to be selfish is something we need to act in this point in order to face the status quo. Like I've said before again, the narration already built in the society is where women for the little age has been told that morally they are themselves should be the one to give others, sacrifice themselves for goods, and they're expected to put others before themselves first. And because of these, women are feel pressured and harms women's growth, dreams, emotional and mental. They feel guilty for prioritizing themselves because of the things that are set up under the society. They cannot grow, they cannot have the freedom, and it can leave them stuck in the role where they are treated unfairly and also harmful in many aspects for their life. For example, the first one is their careers and education. Because of the narrative, they cannot achieve their dreams, just like they should, because they're just like a woman. The one that should achieving a bigger dreams in society, they say that the one who can achieving a bigger dreams must be the man. So they have to sacrifice their dreams and just living in the household when in this case there are a lot of women that are having a high dreams or achieving dream and fulfill the life vision in here. So by this case, the woman cannot really achieving their potential to a dream because of their women and because of the stereotype that they have to be stay at home, they cannot have to educate higher because at the end of the day they just have to be at home cooking and things. And the second one is about love or relationship. Women are always have to be the one that follow their partner, or even when they have to face like a condition such as like arranged marriage, they also the one who always have to obey their parents even if they feel uncomfortable or harmed themselves, but they still have to do that. In this case, the woman in the love relationship, they should have to be the one that follow the man, even if they have their own life visions. They have to follow the man in order to more of the society that happens in real life in the status quo. And the third one is emotionally. Emotionally can happen because of the first one that I've said, that their careers and education, and also the love relationship that they cannot achieve, it can harm them emotionally and also mentally, because they can feel pressured, they can feel oppressed, and they cannot fulfill their life visions. And it is something wrong, because they don't give them the rights that they must have. They don't give them the rights as same as a man. And like I've said before, it is also can make the liberation or their freedom cannot really like fulfill or like having the full potential of their freedom that women should have in this life. And let's move on to my second argument about why encouraging women to be selfish is something we need to act in this point in order to face the status quo. And like I've said before, the selfish is not something that negative, but the selfish here is a form to fight back into the status quo that happens in the society. So encouraging selfishness becomes a tool to fight back when women start to say no to unfair treatment, to saying no for something that make them feel uncomfortable or things, and try to fight back the society in order to prioritize themselves and giving them the chance to treat as a man and fulfill their life visions. And that's exactly the balanced world that we want to build under proposition, because the world that we want to build under proposition is that women and men have equally some rights. And here there are some types of stereotypes that women have because of the things that are made up in the society, and this is something wrong. So that we want to encouraging selfishness here for the woman to help the woman, to support the woman that have no they have no courages for achieving that things because of the things that are marked up in the real life. So at the end of the day, we believe this motion is not about changing like behavior, but it's also about changing beliefs and also the narrative itself that happened in the society. We don't want this woman to only have the selfishness for their goods, but it's also for helping the people or the society understand about this narrative is something is wrong and needed to be shifted and needed to be a look at something that wrong, because woman here and a man has to be have to have the same thing as the chances or even many more, that this stereotype or even things that happens in a woman cannot be fulfilled just because of the stereotype that mark up in the society. So we cannot have a world that values women if they don't value themselves first. So we want to encourage them, the women, to understand that this is something important for them to be selfish, that it is something urgent for them to be selfish, and that themselves, because of that, the society itself can understand, because it can understand that in this case selfishness is needed, and also the society can understand that this narrative is something morally wrong or ideally wrong under the side of proposition. Proud to propose.